The Battlefield 6 open beta just wrapped up and I've got a lot to say. Some background for you though, I'm not a huge Battlefield fan. My roots in the series start in Bad Company 2, but I never really got into it. I've played Battlefield 3, 4, 1, and 2042, but I've never really gotten into them like I have with other shooters, like Call of Duty. Long before I was playing Zelda or building random shit in Minecraft, I was playing Call of Duty. Black Ops 1 is probably the game I have the most fond memories of. It came out when I was 10 years old. My brother was 13 at the time and we spent tons of hours playing Call of Duty. However, with the release of Black Ops 3 and all of its awful loot boxes, I quit the franchise and shooters entirely. It wasn't really until 2024 with X-Defiant that I would really return to the genre. In terms of Battlefield though, Bad Company 2 and 2042 are probably the games I've played the most, so for me, Battlefield 6 is sort of new. In terms of skill, I'd consider myself painfully average. I tend to go positive in my kill-death ratio, with my score usually hovering somewhere around 5,000. I've also played a fair amount of Black Ops 6, a sentence I wish I really couldn't say, so I'm used to the fast, chaotic gameplay. Battlefield 6 so far feels like a welcome change to the rotting FPS genre. It's gritty, realistic, and above all, fun. I had the privilege of playing the beta with my older brother, who is a much bigger fan of Battlefield than I am. Overall, he's excited for the game. He skipped 2042 entirely, and from what I can gather from our combos together, he seems to think that Battlefield 3 and 4 were the golden age of the series, and that is a sentiment that is heavily echoed by many Battlefield fans. Playing with him was a blast, and I'm excited to do it again this weekend during the next open beta. The footage you're watching now is of us playing together, and this is where Battlefield is at its best, when you're working as a team. There is something to be said about the great game flow, and that flow of communication. It's amazing. The moments I enjoyed the most were when my brother and I would work toward an objective together, tough it out either winning or going down with the fight. In particular, the sound design is amazing. Battlefield has always had great sound design, but good lord did this game actually get my heart racing due to the sound. There was one particular moment in Liberation Peak where I ran into a small building near the deep point thinking I was completely unseen. A second after I shut the door behind me, a tank blows up half the house I'm in and it begins to crumble around me. The sheer terror I felt was heavily impacted by that sound design. I ran out of that house screaming, and I yelled out to my brother, if this was real life, I no doubt would have gotten PTSD from that. Meanwhile, he's fighting his own battle like 20-30 meters away. This is one of those quintessential Battlefield moments, kind of like nailing a tank with an RPG and getting all the kills, or wiping out an enemy squad as you're the last squad member standing and you're trying to capture a point. These are all things that happened. I got a quad kill exactly once during this beta, and it was amazing. My heart was pounding and I was on a roll. I was using my assault rifle until it completely ran out of ammo, and then I used my shotgun to pick off others, and resorting to my pistol when I had nothing left. That feeling of getting overrun and fighting it out for as long as possible is something that you could only really get in Battlefield, and I love it. From my memories of playing older Battlefield games, I can say that this game is much faster paced than the old ones. It's not as fast as like a modern Call of Duty game, but it is faster. And I like it. It feels like a good average between like the ADHD gameplay style that we see in modern Call of Duties and the old clunky gameplay of OG Battlefield games. I think the devs have done a wonderful job finding a middle ground. The class system is also officially back, with some minor updates such as allowing any class to use any gun. What I love about this feature in particular is that it can be turned off. If you don't like this new system where everyone can use any gun, you can play a version of the game where the weapons are locked, and you can't do that just like the old Battlefield games. And for the most part, the classes work really well. Assault is a bit overpowered at the moment. That shotgun that everyone complains about is brutally powerful. However, I find that the Assault class's grenade launcher and focus on pushing onto objectives to be really fun and engaging. Engineer is just as fun as it always has been. I will say these smaller maps that were shown off in the beta are a great example of why RPGs can be annoying as hell but also super useful. In previous Battlefield games, I seldom used an RPG. In an open beta like this with such limited weapon selections, it was honestly one of my favorite ways to counter snipers or get long-ranged kills. At the same time, holy shit are they annoying when you're on the receiving end of one. And this leads me to support. Support class is either the most annoying class in the world or your very best friend. I swear half the medics in this game do not look for the little revive symbol. In some instances, I get it. You got guns firing like crazy, 3 snipers all pointed at you, and you got at least 1 tank blowing your buddy's brains out. You can't really get to that guy on the floor who needs to be revived at this moment. Other times, say when you're killed by like 1 lone enemy soldier and there are like dozens of friendlies around you, the medics just seem to not notice you on the floor bleeding out. On that same note, holy shit, so many people during this beta will just instantly skip the revive thinking that they will respawn faster. You don't. You don't save any time by skipping it. You lose a valuable position on the battlefield and you could cost your team the game. So let the medics do their job. It's hard enough to get them to do their job in the first place, at least let them try to do it. Finally, there's the recon class. This is by far the most useful and worthless class all at the same time. Its respawn beacon item is fantastic. I can't tell you how many times I used it to repeatedly sneak onto an enemy base and take an extra point for my team. Beyond that, the C4 item is extremely situational. You can either use it to blow up an enemy vehicle, or blow up a building you suspect enemies may be in, or maybe set up a little trap or something. There is also the motion sensor, which covers such a small area it's hardly useful unless you're camping, which is a pretty valid playstyle, not gonna lie. Not everything is sunshine and rainbows though. The Jeeps were almost entirely useless. A single RPG rocket would destroy them, and most people who hopped in a Jeep would just abandon it at the nearest point of interest. The main gunner is extremely vulnerable, making it near impossible to use effectively. The gunner seat doesn't even suppress fire that well. I can be shooting directly at someone and they still have the confidence to pop my head off. I don't know if this was an issue in previous Battlefield games, but I found them to be almost entirely useless. They have no armor, and the only offensive measure they have is easily taken out. If you sit on that gunner seat, you are the target. The enemies will shoot you first, making this vehicle extremely useless beyond rushing to a point and then bailing it. On a similar note, some guns were either too accurate or too hard to control. I understand recoil is probably one of the more difficult things to nail in a shooter, but I feel like this game just missed the mark in both directions. Some carbines, such as the AK-205, were more or less laser guns that everyone used, while some things like the M433 or the NVO-228E have much harder recoil to control. This feels inconsistent and a bit messy. Even the LMGs had weirdly manageable control for such power. And of course, there's the shotgun. I don't need to say anymore. You know what I'm talking about. There were several gunfights where I saw the enemy first, shot the enemy first, they turn on a dime and still managed to kill me. I can understand that this happens from time to time. I get it. You expect it every once in a while that someone's just going to be better than you. But it happened more often than I would like in just 2 days. I can't tell if the issue is netcode or if my opponents are really just locked in that hard. Then there's the tanks. While tanks are fun to use, especially if you have competent gunners and engineers who will help you out, they are a very oppressive machine because of that. If your teammates all forget that RPGs exist, you're going to have a hard time taking down a tank by yourself. On the second day of the beta, I rediscovered the joy of running behind a tank and throwing C4 on it. God, that feels so good. But if you're the only one on your team trying to take down a tank, it's very likely that it will kill you over and over and over, especially if it has 2 or 3 engineers just sitting behind it constantly healing it. What makes this trickier is that the tanks more or less act as a mobile spawn beacon for the enemy team. People can spawn at the tank, hop out, and let another teammate spawn in the tank, and then they hop out, etc., etc. This means that if a tank is in front of you, there's a good chance you're about to have a dozen or so enemies on you if you don't take that thing down quickly. As of the beta, there are really only 3 ways that you can take down a tank: RPG, tank mines, and C4. Of course, that's infantry. If you're in a tank, you can take down another tank, or if you're in a helicopter. I think these are all fine and they're fairly well balanced. I do wish though that the grenade launcher did just a little bit more damage to the tanks. Not enough to like destroy it, but it would be nice for the assault class to at least contribute a little more than a scuff in the tank's armor. Furthermore, Battlefield is at its worst when people don't play well together. I know I talked about this briefly earlier, but sometimes the skill of the individual people on a team don't matter as much compared to the ability to synergize together and go for particular objectives. I often found that the times I was having the most fun was when my squad was well coordinated and we were trying to push the same things. That's the beauty of Battlefield. If you've got squad members everywhere across the map trying to push different things, it just doesn't really work that well. Just try to be a team player. Trust me, it's worth it. I know a lot of Call of Duty guys aren't used to playing with friends, but holy shit, just try. Battlefield is a game that you can play even if you're bad at shooters. Like, I know that a lot of my audience likes sandbox games and whatnot because it's mostly what I cover here, but if you suck at gunfights, you can play as support and supply your team with ammo and health. If you don't like the fast-paced action, you can lay back as a sniper and provide recon for your teammates by spotting enemies and vehicles. There's tons of ways to play Battlefield, and that's the beauty of the sandbox-like experience that you get in every match. As it stands right now, EA and DICE have stumbled into gold. Call of Duty is looking the worst it has ever looked, and Battlefield has a chance to make something gritty, realistic, that's a great shooter that people truly want. If they play their cards right, there's even a possibility of them beating Call of Duty this year in terms of sales. A little unlikely, I know, but it would still be cool. But unlike my brother, I'm not getting my hopes up too much. My brother has already told me that he plans to pre-order this game. I make no such reservations. I do not trust EA, and I do not care about some silly cosmetic pre-order bonus. I already got some cosmetics from the challenges during the beta, so that'll be my pre-order bonus if I do decide to buy the game. EA absolutely made the right call in making this game a realistic counterpart to modern-day Call of Duty. Many people in the FPS community were hopeful that Battlefield can pull away some of the Call of Duty players this year. Call of Duty is essentially a storefront above all else. Many people have been calling it a wannabe Fortnite, or as Nero Cinema puts it, Fortnite's weird uncle, which is a description I think we can all understand. More to the point though, Battlefield 6 pre-order bonuses look pretty grounded and realistic. Sure, they've got like that badass red one that isn't really realistic at all, but I think it's okay to have some nice grays and reds here. That's fine. It sets people apart without being fucking Stan Smith in my military shooter. This feels like the kind of skin we would get in an older title from the 2010s. Nothing too crazy, feels like it fits the world, but looks cool enough that players who purchase the game early can feel cool. I think that's nice. I'm of the opinion that gun camos can be a bit more wacky than character skins. Like, the only person who's really going to see that gun skin is the person holding it. Most people probably won't even notice or care. If a character skin looks goofy though, everyone is going to see that shit and be taken out of the immersion. All things in moderation, of course. To be clear, I am no fanboy of Battlefield. I have no problem shitting on any game company that has ever screwed over consumers in the past. They are not saints in my eyes. Call of Duty just happens to be in a worse spot, and we should all welcome healthy competition. Clearly, Call of Duty without competition gets lazy, stuck in a rut, and makes changes that benefit the suits up top, but not the players at the bottom. I know this channel looks like I mostly talk about Minecraft, but I do like to branch out from time to time. Whenever something new and interesting comes along, I like to talk about it, even if it doesn't really fit my channel's vibe. I will cover Battlefield 6 if I think it's something that is fun to cover. That being said, please hit the like and subscribe button, it helps out my channel a ton. Memberships are available for as little as $3 a month, and you get access to all of my videos early, as well as all of my live stream VODs, and members-only videos like me unboxing my 19 different versions of Uno, or 20, don't remember how many I have. I have a lot. Anyway, what are your thoughts on the Battlefield 6 beta? If you don't play shooters, I recommend giving this one a go. It's pretty fun. The beta is next weekend. Anyway, that's all for today's video. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye-bye.